extra
Because
copy.
sometimes it takes a minute. Or you can wait till 6:30.
New sidewalk with that.
6:30, whenever you're ready.
We're ready?
Yep.
Okay. I'd like to call to order the City of Twin Oaks Board of Aldermen meeting for November the 6th, 2024. Please stand for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Eisenhower.
Here.
Alderman Cruzen.
Here.
Alderman Stokel.
Here.
Alderman Whitmore.
Here.
Mayor Fortune.
Okay, we have an agenda. It's been properly posted for tonight's meeting. If there are no amendments to the agenda, I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda is approved. We have any citizen comments at this time? Any on, nope.
Nope.
Okay, we have a consent agenda, Board of Aldermen regular meeting minutes from October the 16th, the bills list from October 12th to November the 1st. Any question or discussion? If not, I'll take motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Report of committees, financial report, Dave Watson.
Hello,
Good evening.
Hello.
to you all. So I am a little late on this. This is the September report. I listened at the last meeting. Apologize. So as of September 30th, 2024, again, as we talked about over the last several months, things are still very good, pretty stable. If you look at the balance sheet on the second page, we have cash and the certificate of deposit over $2.1 million, which is pretty much what we've been running. So it shows that the money that's coming in is pretty much covering what's going out, even with some capital improvement expenditures this year. On the next page, the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. We have implemented these new categories of expenditures or cost centers to better reflect some of the service levels that the city's getting paying for, if you will, as opposed to the old categories of personnel and repairs and maintenance and everything. So we have these 6 categories of administrative, police, parks, road, resident services, capital improvements, and debt service. And as you can see, expenditures are up 11.7% in 2024, mainly because we're spending a lot more in capital this year. Now, the administrative expenses are down so far through September, about 4.8%. And that's because of the turnover in the city clerk position and the costs associated last year with higher benefit, especially loggers, because there was more loggers payments or employees getting that were eligible for loggers last year. That will, of course, as we move on, increase. But that's why that's down a little bit. The police is pretty stable, according to the contract. The park expenditures are up only about 3.1%, pretty much with inflation. The road expenditures are up 17%, and that reflects a lot more contracted road repair in 2024 versus 2023. Resident services, which are those various categories of events, trash hauling, snow removal, those kinds of things that we've talked about, and it's listed on the bottom there, what we include in resident services. That's up about 11%. And that's mostly due to, or about half of it is due to the snow removal costs in 2024 were much higher than 2023 by about $5,000. I'm sorry, by about $16,000. We spent about $5,000 at this point in 2023 for snow and ice removal, and this year so far $21,000. Sanitation is up about $2,500 also. So that pretty much explains the increase in expenditures. If you look at the next page, we detail again the sales tax. We're down a little bit again in September, and we're going to be down again in October a little bit based on the distribution from the state. But I did look at the numbers for November, what we'll receive in November, and we're up significantly in November. So I'm very confident that we will make the budgetary numbers for sales tax in 2024, but it's always subject to the distribution by the state, and especially when we have a couple of very big payers, generators of sales tax. The last page does again show where we are budget-wise, and again with those new expenditure categories, we're really close. We should, we're about 75% through the year, and that we're running with revenues about 77%, and expenditures about 60%, but we've still got a lot of capital improvements to pay out here in the next couple of months. So we still project to have right around $2 million at the end of the year, which is what the budget is projecting, and I think that's a pretty good number. At the next meeting, we'll be looking at the budget for 2025.
Any questions for Dave?
The liability payable, is that how much more we're going to pay for the sidewalk?
That's just generally bills that were that we had not paid, that we had received the services at the end of September, but hadn't paid for them yet. There's various whatever bills could be, police contract, there's a lot of different things.
Any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Since we had some people walk in and in between, I'd like to go back to any comments or anything you would like to
We're government junkies.
say to the board. I'm sorry.
We're government junkies, we're just here for the.
Oh, you just, yeah, come for the entertainment, boring night on TV.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Staying away from the television.
Okay, old business, insurance claim update, John. Floor is yours.
Okay, let's see. Well, I brought Carlos Gonzalez from expert at Terriers
Okay,
to explain to everybody about the roof.
okay.
So I pretty much turn it over to him.
Okay, Carlos, you want to join us up there?
So he can explain it a lot better than I can.
I was told 6 folders, but it looks like there's a lot more, so hopefully you guys can share.
Yeah.
A couple each, you guys.
I don't need one.
I
so
think for
I'm in
those,
the office.
for
so-
those joining us, a little bit of the history here. During the hailstorm, of course, we had damage like everybody else, and we had the roof inspected. And a little bit to our surprise, our roof wasn't exactly installed properly. Yeah, I think the gutters were actually installed above the roof line. So,
We'll get in a little more detail about that.
yeah, so this is what you're going to be hearing.
Yeah, so.
Can we go back and get this contractor?
It's a good question.
Or the architect. Yeah, so I've actually, and I appreciate you guys kind of giving me a little bit of time to get all my ducks in a row, but whenever you're dealing with projects this complex, I'd rather sit down with some of my reps and say, hey, what's the best solution for this roof system, right? We looked at everything as far as wind baffle systems, basically ERC systems, which are very, very popular in Florida due to the hurricane. So what that specific system does is it actually is like a layover, but it gets tied into the existing system. Now those baffles, when it sucks air down, it sucks it to the membrane itself, but over time it dries the existing system out itself, if you will. We realized that that's probably not a good idea on this specific building just because the walls were so high. We want to get a little bit of that airflow in there, right? So we realized, okay, well, what's the next best idea here? We started looking at the scuppers. So the scuppers, what's going on with those guys is they're installed just a little too high. This TPO system that installed on this building is actually tapered. What that means is it's got a little bit of a slope, so that water should run off, perfectly to those scuppers, correct? You've got 2 over here. That's not happening. You've got 2 crickets on each side, which allows, again, it's lifted, which allows that water to come down onto the system and into the scupper itself. Well, those scuppers are up too high to where the system, one of 2 things needs to happen. That scupper should have been installed just a little bit lower, or now the system needs to be lifted, if you will. So our idea with this specific system is to basically give it a lift, right? So we're going to install what's a 1/2-inch insulation board or a cover board. That's going to save you guys a ton of money because we're not going to replace the entire isolation board on the entire system, right? Anything that can be salvaged, which most should, we're going to go ahead and salvage. If it's just too bad upon tear off, we'll replace it. The reason that I kind of want to get all my ducks in a row is because I don't like unwanted surprises. So changeovers, I want to keep those to a minimum. Now they're inevitable; they will happen. But again, I kind of want to minimize that. So if you guys take a look at the scope of work that I typed up here, basically what that scope of work says is, you've got several different systems here. You've got your shingle roof, you've got your metal roof, and your flat roof, as well as your gutters and downspouts. So on the shingle roof, it just shows that we're going to be installing, we'll be removing down to the existing decking. We're going to install synthetic underlayment. We're going to get your ice and water moisture barrier at all eaves. What your ice and water moisture barrier is in valleys, that's where the 2 slopes meet. Those areas are more prone for ice or water dams to build up, right? So they're your leak areas. Rule of thumb, you guys can probably agree with this. Sounds like you guys know a little bit of the construction side of things. But basically, if you've got your kick out or your soffit, right, that's the areas where you don't have any of this warm air moving up, so it doesn't melt as fast as everything inside of your warm wall. Does that make sense? But that's going to get installed. It's just an added barrier underneath the shingles that will get installed around the perimeter, as well as your valleys. We will be installing, to me personally, this is probably top-notch residential shingle, if you will. The shingle is made of
they just recently added like 30% more rubber to it. So with the crazy weather that we deal with in the Midwest, you deal with a lot of expansion and contraction, right? So with that rubber, what it does is it actually allows that shingle to come back to its normal state. Whereas with a more asphalt shingle, if you will, it allows it to crack. It gets more brittle. You lose more of that granule. So we're going to go with that malarkey. I don't know if you guys see me walk in with a Tamco coat, but we're master certified, and even then, with those guys, I still feel as though malarkey is probably the better option here. So on a building like this, hell, why not go with the best option possible, right? Moving forward, standing seam, and in those folders, I've got some of the products that we'll be using. That'll be your medallion lock, which is basically what you have up there. I had my installer, Rob, he swung by a few weeks ago, took a look at it. We're basically looking at going with the exact same system, same color. If you guys are looking at kind of upgrading a color or something like that, there is a bit of a price increase just depending on the color. Availability, obviously, you know, whether it's painted, powder coated, things of that nature to kind of kick that price up a bit, but it's bid for what's up there now. Okay. Hail damage on all this stuff. And just to kind of give you guys a quick, you know, briefing on what hail does with some of this metal is you're not going to deal with leaks right away on metal. But over time, with that indention now being in the metal itself, what's going to happen is water is going to pool within that hit. And over time, you're going to deal with surface rust. That is going to break through. That's where your leaks come. Okay. Your flat roof. So kind of back to what I was explaining originally. We will give the system a lift. So we're going to tear off the old membrane. We will install that 1/2-inch cover board, which will kind of give it a lift. And it should, I'm 99.9% positive that this thing's going to run perfectly, right? It should run perfectly. Again, because just that looking at the scuppers, that's kind of what the issue is. They're kind of hand in hand there. The AC units will bring in basically unit jacks. We'll lift the units from the top side because they're big units, guys. So if we feel that the jacks aren't going to be enough, we may end up having to get a crane out here just to lift it so we can get our membrane underneath that, adhere it, and set it back down. Okay. Let's see. Coping. That's your so that's around the perimeter of your flat roof. That stuff got pretty beat up. I don't know if Mr. Williams showed you guys any of the photos with a lot of those hits. Two things, and I'm estimating for replacement. And the reason that I'm doing that is, well, number one, the damages, right, from hail. Number two is the way that that coping was installed is on the inside. They actually took screws and screwed through the TPO membrane and have now compromised the membrane. So if you guys technically had a warranty, that's gone. Okay, you're dealing with holes. So the proper way is to, and you'll see the product that we're looking at installing there, it should all lock in place, right? There should be no screwing on the inside of that coping. Okay. The other thing, and I should have maybe bid for it, but your Christmas lights, we'll do our best to bring them down as easy as we can so they're not breaking and whatnot. Reinstalling them. Unfortunately, we're not Christmas light experts, so that might be something you guys would have to take care of. But overall, you guys have your product information there if you guys want to read through that in due time. You've got your scope of work and all of the legal paperwork, if you will, for expert exteriors, along with your estimate. So, do you guys have any questions for me? Or I know I gave you guys a lot of information. I did the same to Mr. Williams, and it sounds like he couldn't spew it back out. So.
Were you able to identify any mold, or is that gonna be discovered when you take things up?
That's gonna be discovered when we take things up.
You're
I don't-
expecting some,
Say that again?
expecting some?
I don't think so. I don't think so. And the reason I say that is if you would have seen some of the damage photos, you can see where there is moisture underneath the membrane. So it's kind of in the ribs of the isolation board. Had that membrane popped, basically formed bubbles, I think I'd be a little more worried then, right? So again, that's where if it's too wet, if it's crumbling upon removing the existing membrane, we'll get rid of it. We'll come back with the ISO that we need and the additional lift or bump, if you will, for the tapered system.
How thick is the membrane?
The membrane itself is 0.060 mils. Yes. And TPO is kind of like if I tried to pronounce this, guys, I would butcher it. It's almost like a very thick, flexible plastic, if you will, almost like a PVC. It's what you want on flat roofs anymore. It's actually become so popular because this was only made for commercial purposes. It's become so popular over the years that they're now they're coming out with different colors, and a lot of people are installing it on their residential homes. So,
How soon can you start?
how
long
soon
does
can
it
we
take?
start? The $1 million question. So, the way that, and I want to sit down and have a meeting with my guys in office because I've been, thinking about how I want to coordinate each system, right? I've got guys who will handle shingle, I've got guys who will handle metal, and then obviously my TPO guys. Final project would be your gutters and downspouts. I want to handle the shingles first. Okay, those create usually the most debris, and I don't want shingles coming down and damaging my new TPO or scratching up my new metal. So for coping, we're at about 4 weeks. What I'm going to try to do is coordinate everything to where on that 4th, 5th week, that coping's coming in and it's the final touches, if you will. As far as us getting started, I'm thinking anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks, just depending on the weather. If the weather's playing fair, I'll try to get pushing on this, as quickly as I can. After kind of speaking with Mr. Williams, it's going to be winter before we know it, and we'd like to have this thing safe and sound.
And you'll be coordinating with the insurance company.
So with the insurance
selects you.
company, I'll be honest with you guys, that was kind of news to me. I did not realize that there was a claim on hand.
Mhm.
I knew you guys were, just kind of collecting bids and whatnot.
Yep.
When you're dealing with your insurance companies, that's a complete different ballgame. Okay, because at that point, we're not necessarily looking at price, but we need to make sure that they are accounting for the proper material.
Mhm.
Aside from that material, I need to look at linear footages, all of your measurements,
Mhm.
right? And then we take a look at the price at the end, make sure that it is profitable for us, right? We want to stay in business, but obviously that's pending that all of the proper material is there. If it is not there, or if they're just shorting us on material, because it happens,
Mhm.
that would result in a supplement. So we would be dealing with the insurance company directly. Now, just from experience and being around the block a few times, your insurance company, especially on large loss claims like this, they tend to drag it out. So there would probably be no guarantee that we would jump on it right away.
Yeah.
Depending on what that insurance paperwork says, they may be looking at a full replacement, which means completely tearing everything off. In this case, treating it as a retail project, I was thinking more so, how can I save you guys money, but get this thing done the right way, and how soon can we get it done? So. And your insurance companies are getting very difficult to deal with these days, even on the residential side. Probably be a lot more expensive, I will say that, but again, just kind of thinking price conscious for you guys. Let's see.
You mean more expensive if we deal with the insurance company?
So, because if they are looking at removing the entire,
Mhm.
ISO, they don't care that it's salvageable, right? If
Right.
they're saying, hey, we're gonna remove the entire thing, and so be it. After I spoke to Mr. Williams, I think he had quite a few guys come out
Mhm.
that said that, hey, we're wanting to deal with your insurance company. We're
Yep.
wanting to deal with your insurance company. Well, there's a reason for that.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Anybody else?
Anybody else?
Not right now.
So this scope of work takes care of everything as far as you're concerned.
As far as I'm concerned, for now, I always say, I don't want to say that let me take a step back. Upon tear off, you just never know what you're
I
going to
know,
find.
I know.
I'll give you guys an example. Your maintenance building, I asked Mr. Williams if I could peek in the attic when I inspected it. He looked at me like I was crazy. Well, reason being is if you have, the old style of building these homes is with planks, right? Problem is your manufacturer's guidelines, as well as your residential codes really are calling out for solid nailable surfaces. If I'm shooting nails through thin air, your shingles are going to be in the middle of the road, and then you're going to call me displeased, right? So we have to, upon opening that one, although I think the planks were pretty close together.
They were close.
They were pretty close, and I could see that, the previous roofer did install some new planks up there.
Mhm.
I think we could get away with it, but if there's just too many gaps, I won't even take the risk. We're installing new plywood, and we're going to do things the right way.
What's the warranty?
The warranty, that's going to vary per your manufacturers, right? For us, you'll get a 3-year labor warranty through Expert Exteriors. Okay. Between yourselves, between myself, you guys, it just from experience, I will say, guys, that if anything is going to happen within any system, it's most likely going to happen within 2 years. There's contractors out there saying that they'll give you 5, 10, 15 in a lifetime. I take that with a grain of salt because, again, if something goes wrong, it's going to happen rather quickly. Keep that in mind for your personal homes, too.
And this bid is valid for how long?
30 days. It is on the paperwork, I believe.
This just covers this building, not the other building.
Not the other building. The other building is right around $20,000, just a little over $20,000. Now with that building, Mr. Williams and I had discussed kind of doing, removing the old metal siding, and you can definitely install over what's existing. If we were to remove to the studs, what I'm worried about with some of these older buildings is asbestos. So if we do come across some asbestos, now we're dealing with an abatement company, and things just kind of shoot up substantially.
No, I think you said that to me in an email, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember.
I'm good.
And this warranty is the same? Bell House?
Yes, yes. I'll double check on your TPO. I want to say it's 30. Same for your metal. But your shingles, you're definitely looking at a 30-year manufacturer's warranty. And I've got all the fine print in there for you guys as well. But obviously the shingles, if they make it through all of our crazy elements, you'll see 30 years out of them. That's a long shot, guys. It's a curveball considering where we live, but
You mentioned some problems with supplies. Is that a typical obstacle?
so that's another factor that I was taking into account, from the get-go, right? What is going to be readily
Because of the
available?
industry buildup?
Yes. So we actually, I used to work for a smaller company out of Southern Illinois, and Big Owens Corning installer. We ran into issues where the manufacturer just couldn't keep up, right? So we ended up reverting, and although we were preferred with Owens Corning, we had to revert to other manufacturers at that point. With your Malarkey, I know exactly where I need to get it. Your metal will be ready to rock and roll, and TPO, I can obtain rather quickly. So materials are not an issue. I did take that factor into account.
Try.
Yeah, I encourage you guys to read through some of that Malarkey paperwork.
Would you be willing to write up a little summary for us as to what you found that was wrong up there?
Yeah.
Like improper installation. you're
Improper
talking about.
installation or whatever it was.
So got those photos.
And with photos, yeah,
They're
that
all
would be great.
illustrated.
Yeah.
She commended me on how pretty they were. So
Yeah,
there's
we
circles,
may try to go back on the architect or the builder. I don't know if it'd do any good, but all I can say is no.
Right.
Yeah. And I have, I mean, one of my close colleagues, I'll name drop. I probably should have had him here with me. He's just, the guy is so informative, and I've learned a lot from him. But Ryan Frank, he works over at RepTech, and that's who pretty much helps me with my TPO bids, my estimates, my material orders, things of that nature. The guy's been around for a very long time, both Florida, St. Louis area. He's very knowledgeable. And just from going through the photos for my inspection, I mean, we were just pointing things out,
Mhm.
left and right, and the fasteners on the inside through the membrane. We're like, well, there went that. We had the idea to maybe, so we wouldn't have to deal with the coping to tie into the existing membrane. But we're like, no, I'd rather slap a full warranty on this thing and do this thing the right way. So let's get rid of it all, install new coping, because your TPO needs to come up on your wall over that coping down.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for
Absolutely. Thank
coming
you.
in tonight.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure meeting you
Yeah,
guys. Thank you guys for
appreciate it.
having
Thank
me.
you.
Thank you.
John, did you want to talk about the truck since you sent me that hail damage from Dents Express?
Yeah. The truck's going into the shop on the 11th. And they will have it approximately a week.
How many?
1 week.
1 week?
And they're just gonna replace the two fenders in the hood. That's all they're doing. Nobody really wants to touch the truck because of the aluminum roof.
Mm,
So that pretty much you'd have to go back to a dealer to get that done. And if you're thinking about pursuing that route, you're gonna be waiting. Caliber. I
Mhm.
talked to them. They're looking in July. And the quickest said they would even work on their truck. but
Who
they-
is it? Who is it that we're
Dents
thinking?
Express.
Who?
Dents
Dents Express. Okay.
They're right here on Manchester Road.
Yeah. There they are.
And the total on this is $3,178.50.
Yeah.
Okay. And you have talked with the insurance about this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So were they okay with this price covering that? I guess that's, I mean,
They
we already
said-
got the check,
they
but
said the
yeah,
truck's
that's right.
paid off, so that money's yours.
That's true. We did already get the
You do
check for
whatever
that.
you want with it.
So, and it was above that, so.
So,
Okay.
they said if you wanna fix part of it, that's fine. You don't wanna fix any of it, that's fine.
Yeah.
You wanna fix it all,
I'd say we need to get it scheduled and done.
The truck?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. He's already got it
Okay.
scheduled.
I thought I had said that before.
Yeah, yeah.
11 November, you said.
The 11th,
Okay.
he's taking it in on the 11th, but
going in on the 11th.
Okay.
Gotta have it to them at 9:00 in the morning.
All right. Any other questions for John?
No.
All right.
No.
Next on the agenda, adoption of 2025 capital improvement budget. Dave, is that yours?
But I think you're.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can just,
Better than I did.
sure. Let me pull it up from last time.
Before we approve our annual budget, we need to make sure we have our capital improvement part right.
Hmm.
Good idea.
Be a
So
good
this was
idea.
just an update from, which is in your board packet, from the memo that I gave you guys last time, just showing the completed projects that we did for 2024. And then we obviously have a few outstanding bills on these. We still have to have the last sign installed over at Crescent for Dale Signs, the welcome signs. So we owe them the second half payment for that still, which we'll do. And then we've got 236,000-ish spent on the Crescent Avenue sidewalk stormwater project so far. So we still have 160. There'll be another payment for that before the end of the year. And then the rest of everything else is already what we've spent. The radar sign came in. John has not installed it yet, but it's been in. So that'll get, that's been paid for. And then we still are outstanding. BFA is finalizing the paperwork for us to get our $10,000 reimbursement for the park planning grant. So that's the recap of 24. And then this is just the general overview of 25, but I have the actual budget document. So I made the changes that we talked about last time to this. So this would be the final. So the additions that we did, the total for 2025 budgeted would be 395,000 for all the projects we're looking at. So the additions that we talked about last meeting were $25,000 for the additional town hall signage on the back. Putting in $25,000 for the phase 2 design of the continuation of the Crescent Avenue sidewalk. So that's for engineering. 75,000 for the Crescent Road repair, asphalt overlay. So we talked about that. $25,000 in engineering. That would be for the park grant when we actually apply for it. So that's the engineering portion of that application that's due in August. We put in $30,000 for engineering for the Merrimack Station Road Big Bend intersection STP grant. So the project that we talked about doing some pedestrian improvement over there as part of a grant. So that would also be for that engineering. We upped the amount for the park electrical upgrades to $100,000. And then we added the $20,000 for the technology upgrades. So that's both upgrading the Wi-Fi at the park and then some things that we need up here, like replacement laptops and finally getting that TV to work in the front hall. So a few smaller items like that. So all based on just the changes that we had at our last meeting, basically. So any questions about any of that?
The electrical upgrades though aren't based on any quotes yet.
No, we do not have any quotes. We finally heard back actually from Voss today, and they want to set up a meeting with us
Tuesday.
Tuesday to talk about.
That includes the lights and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Right. And so I think they're looking at the bigger project, and we're still hoping to try to piecemeal that and do
Yeah.
part of that infrastructure in this year with this year's budget, because we have, I think, 25,000 in the budget for
They're
this
going to
year.
come back with a grandiose plan and we're going to pare it down.
Yeah, we're gonna rein them in, exactly.
Okay.
But we'll have that sort of phase 2 idea for the second part next year of what we can do. So. Any other questions? Anybody else?
Anybody else? Okay.
So I guess do we need a motion to adopt the budget, right?
The capital improvement?
Do we
No,
need
it'll
to do
just
that
be
or
part of
no?
the budget.
Okay, all right,
Just be part of next week or
Gotcha.
next meeting.
very good.
Okay, Dave, you can run with that capital budget.
We'll plug those numbers in.
I'm sure you already have them plugged in. Okay, moving on, new business, bill number 24-18. Would you read that?
Sure. An ordinance providing for the holding of the general election for Twin Oaks, Missouri on April 8th, 2025.
Any discussion about our April election? Okay, would you read the second time?
Bill number 24-18, an ordinance providing for the holding of the general election for Twin Oaks, Missouri on April 8th, 2025.
1-year term for one of the aldermen?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So his appointment, it can only be for, he's filling a vacancy, so it can only
Yeah.
be for 1 year and then have to be,
He's got to
They
run
all
at the
stay
next
alive.
election.
if he wants.
If he wants to, he's got to. No choice, I'm so sorry.
Sign him up. Yeah.
Do we have a motion for the election?
Motion to approve bill number 24-18.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Alderman Eisenhower?
Yes.
Alderman Cruzen?
Yes.
Alderman Stokel?
Yes.
Alderman Whitmore?
Yes.
All right, Mayor Fortune? No, you don't vote.
I don't
Just kidding.
vote. I don't get a vote. Bill number 24-18 becomes ordinance 24-18 by a vote, unanimous vote. No discussion items. Attorney's report.
No report tonight.
Okay, city clerk report.
Okay, so I'm going to do a real quick election day recap. We had a nice, steady, but not overwhelming day, which was great. No big long lines except for first thing in the morning. We are doing election sign recycling, so hopefully you guys all saw my emails that went out. The bins are out front, so those will be out till November 11th. And then John will take them up to Republic Services to have those recycled separately. So that's a program through St. Louis County and a bunch of different partnerships, East West Gateway and several organizations coming together to do that.
Good. Roofing signs and everything that's been out from the hail damage, could that be included as well?
Yes,
Yes.
any
Okay.
corrugated plastic signs. There are 2 bins out there, so they ask that they be separated. So we have 2 bins, one for the metal stakes and one for the corrugated plastic signs.
Okay.
So, yeah. So we had our first city session tonight. So thank you guys for coming early, the ones of you that did. If anybody has any ideas about future city sessions, Russ and I talked about go, fire away.
Recycling.
Okay, that's a great idea. Yep.
Recycling was one, and now I forgot what the second one was. I had another one in mind.
Well, think about it. We talked briefly about maybe doing one in December that's kind of a year in review. So maybe it's a kind of like we used to do coffee with the mayor. Maybe it's a year in review with Russ where we just have a half hour up here and he can kind of talk about what we've accomplished this year and then have time for Q&A with residents if you want to do that. So that's one thought for our first meeting in December. And then we don't have to have them every single month. We're just going to kind of do them as topics come up and
Maybe
people
once a
find things.
quarter or something.
Yeah, it
like
might be quarterly, something like that. So, but yeah, if you think of things, please email me. I'm going to add them to just kind of a list that I'm keeping and we can pull these things out, maybe once a quarter if we have some information to share that would be useful to the residents. So, okay, so quick administrative updates. We completed all the staff evaluations, so we're doing our one-to-one meetings for that this week. Paul and I have started working on kind of doing some reorganizing of the computer files drive, which is very exciting, but it's helpful for us to get some of that stuff straightened out. I'm still working on permit updates, so as things are coming up, I'm kind of simplifying the systems, trying to make it clearer, make things clearer on the website for people to find. So that's kind of an ongoing that I'll keep doing. We only got 1 bid back for the emergency tree removal RFP. It was from Omni, who was our current provider. Not a big increase in hourly fee. So I think it went from $4.20 an hour to $4.60 an hour for 2 people. So we'll just have to go with them and hope that we never need them.
2 people in a truck.
2 people in a truck. That's right. And some chainsaws, I'm assuming. The calendar photo submission deadline is November 15th. 1 email has gone out about it so far. Another reminder email will go out on Friday. So
Any good response?
we have had, a handful of pictures from somebody? One picture so far. I took some when I was in the park yesterday, but I would much rather have residents submit them. So tell your photography friends to please get their photos in. Winter light events update real quick. Winter lighting installation was supposed to be early this week, but because of the rain, they have not done it yet. They did complete City Hall up here, so the lights are out up here, but he did not come to the park, right?
He is not.
park.
Okay.
I did hear from him today,
Okay,
and it's going to be the 23rd that he's gonna be in the park.
okay,
And
Good.
he's gonna come up here and he will complete, the roof lights.
okay,
And they're gonna go to red and white.
perfect.
And we're keeping them unplugged until the proper time, Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, okay, good. Perfect. So I did make some new, our event signage was kind of starting to look a little ratty over the years. So I did create, oh yeah, you can go grab one. I did make all new event signage for us to put out prior to the events. So those are all done and here. And I also got, if you ever want to be an official ambassador of Twin Oaks, I got car magnets if you want to use them while you are in the park unloading or whatever, and you feel like you need to have City of Twin Oaks. We have car magnets now that are available. So those are the new signs that we'll go out throughout the neighborhood. So they'll have, yeah, have our logo on them. Yeah.
Show them the magnet.
Oh, the
Yes.
the magnets are huge, a little bit bigger than I anticipated, but people will know you are with Twin Oaks when you have that on your car. That's for sure. They're very, very big, but so those are just helpful
That's the
things.
prize in the draw.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Wait till I see it.
Yeah, it's very big. You will be the bride of Twin Oaks. Anyway, moving on till the magnets get here.
And yes.
It's supposed to be for your door.
And the
It's going to cover your whole car, basically.
bigger than your car.
Yeah, I know.
Color scheme,
Yeah,
yes.
won't harm your paint. I expect to see all of you guys with those in the neighborhood.
Think Wayner'd like that on the car?
Yeah,
Did you say they're gonna change
Yeah.
to red and white?
Yes.
Yes.
yeah, perfect. I love
Shouldn't
it.
we just take those down so the roofers don't have to deal with it? Because they didn't know what to do with it?
Well, if we get closer to that,
We can
I would
schedule them to take
I would
it.
contact the company to have those removed while any roofing.
That way they wouldn't have to deal with it.
Yeah, we're not gonna have
Yeah.
the roofers deal with them.
Yeah, we won't.
No.
Okay, so project updates, we're still on track. As far as I know, I have a meeting with the contractor and BFA tomorrow morning out at the site, but I think we're still on track, even with the rain, to be done by November 22nd with the project. So, and I am planning to have a real ribbon cutting over there at 10 a.m. on Friday, November 22nd, pending that the project is done. I'm going to put actual stakes in and we're cutting the ribbon and we're going to walk on the sidewalk. So, and I'm actually issuing a press release about it as well. So I will share that with you guys ahead of time, but I would like for people to
What
know
time?
10 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I thought we would do it in the morning.
Little
And walk.
historical note, when we first did asphalt of Crescent Avenue, the people came out with champagne. They kissed the sidewalk.
Oh, we should do that.
Or the surface
The
of the
pavement.
road.
I like it.
Just the sidewalk that we come.
Yeah.
Well, they were just happy they didn't have to do fish fries anymore.
Right.
There you go. That's funny. So yeah, I'm planning on making an event, and of course, we're going to invite Frank because I know he wanted to be here to see the
Yeah.
unveiling of the sidewalk that he worked so hard.
Really?
Yeah, he really wants to come. So
Good, it'd be nice to see him.
yes, yeah. So that's in the plans.
November 22.
Yes, that is tentatively, that is the date. So
10 a.m.
barring any
10 a.m.
more rain or any other
Yeah.
unforeseen delays, but the Bowley Lane entrance, BFA is working on getting those docks out right now so that we can go out to bid by the end of the year. And again, we're still targeting June 2025 for construction, but we'd like to get the bid docks out before the end of the year. So they are working on that. And then for the Merrimack Station Road, the STP grant, Russ and I have met with, I called 4 different firms. One declined because they were too busy. We have met with 3 different firms. So I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about our meetings with the 3.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Three very different presentations, I guess you'd say.
Approaches.
The first company, which was
CBB.
CBB,
They're the ones who did a proposal for us in 2020 on this same stretch of roadway.
they came in and they were kind of like yes to everything that we asked about. What do you think about traffic calming? Yes. What do you think about this? Yes. What do you think about? Not as technically as good as I would have liked to have seen about the process of the grant application and points and what wins these grants and so forth. Kind of more of a sales pitch, I thought it was. The second company came in, which was
Cochrane.
and that was a no meeting where number one, don't even think about traffic calming, won't even go there, won't even think about it, won't do it. There's no way you're going to get a grant for this because it's not a major road. Very, very negative, so to speak. We talked a lot about different ideas, but anything that came to traffic calming, forget about it. They were very technical. They understood the process and the point system and how you get these, but not very optimistic as far as we were concerned.
Happy to help us if we were going to pay for it ourselves.
Yeah. Third company, again, very well connected with the process with East-West Gateway. Seemed to have a good open communication with bouncing things off of them before we actually submitted, so they could get an idea of how would you guys look at this, and if not, what could we do to improve that. They seem to have very good connections. They seem to be open to any type of safety improvements we would be looking at over there.
And this was GBA that we set with.
GBA, yeah. Whether or not they could meet the timing that we were asking for was a question mark.
He actually called me this afternoon and said that they can. They do have the capacity for it. So
Could or could not.
they do have the capacity.
The one company, the second company that was a no company, they did throw out some suggestions that the others didn't throw out. And that was with the project of this size and with the grant monies that they have to give out, if we put in more than the standard 20% or whatever it was, if we have pretty much no chance of getting a grant unless we could match with more money, like we'll take 50%. And a lot of times when they delve out the grant money, they have money left over, but not enough to go to a big grant. They could sometimes award that to us, where normally we wouldn't have a chance of getting the grant anyway. So they had some different ideas like that.
GBA also mentioned a TAP grant, which the first guy had mentioned to us as well, which is the Transportation Alternatives, which is basically for pedestrian projects. So he said it may shift how we would design the project, but they can have a conversation with East-West Gateway and say, here's the project. Do you think we could apply for an STP, or should we scale towards a TAP? And they'll give them some direction on what may work better. So that's kind of nice.
GBA said that we would have a much better chance because we talked about our existing project with the sidewalk. We talked about potential future sidewalk. We talked about the park access road. We talked about the various things that we were looking at planning. We talked about Boley. They thought it would be a good idea to put that in an overall plan so that you would have, like what we're doing right now, phase 1, park access road phase 2, Rustic Crescent maybe phase 3, and this may be phase 4. So they said they will be more likely to approve something if they can see that it's part of a larger plan, which means we may not have a chance of getting the grant, but it may be well worth going through the engineering expense with them of preparing that overall plan for future application. So we didn't come away with any of the companies feeling that we had much of a chance of getting this grant unless we threw what they call football, the Hail Mary, and said, we'll throw in 50% if you'll throw in 50%. They think that's the only basically the only chance that we have of getting a grant without self-funding the whole thing. And so it might be worth going for the grant and saying, we'll do this, we'll put in the 50%. If we get rejected there, we're not going to get any money.
Right.
Period.
Right.
Whatever you say.
So anyway, that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, that was a great overview. Perfect. So we're kind of deciding, I guess, which I think Russ and I both, I think, felt like GBA was kind of the right mix of what we were looking for out of the project. And when he called me back this afternoon to say that they did have the capacity to meet it would be a February deadline. So I, told them obviously that the board would discuss and we would let them know. But
Because the awards are out, what, 2 years, I think?
3 years.
3
It's a
years.
3-year, well, depending on the
So-
engineering, 2 to 3 year timeline. So we would apply in February. We would get notification, I think he said in April or May. But then it's, you have a whole design phase that lasts a year. There's a whole year for right of way. So he said the timeline can be condensed if you don't have to get a bunch of right of way acquisition. If you don't, if the project is not as design heavy as some of these projects are. So, but at very best, it would be 2027 we're planning for.
I think all of them said that it was good that we had as much right of way over there as we have.
Yes.
They were surprised that we had that much.
And they all agreed that out of all of the road projects and pedestrian projects that we had on our list, that this would be probably our best shot. If we were to get any kind of funding,
Yeah.
this is kind of the only option, which is kind of what we knew too from our previous application on Crescent Avenue. And that one just got summarily rejected and not even any kind of feedback or anything. So like Russ said, I think worth pursuing, just to see if there's any chance that we get that. And
Did he give us, he didn't give us we need to get a quote from him.
Yeah.
On,
and I think he would as soon as I
on
say,
the cost of helping us prepare the plan. And
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
what does
So
that,
that
what
would
does that
be-
number look like? And we do have in that 2025 budget that we just talked about, we do have, I think, 30,000
Yeah.
in there for that, which would be that engineering cost essentially.
In the overall plan.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, okay, that's all I have unless anybody has questions about
So I
any
think
of that.
once we get that, we'll bring it back to the board for approval to move forward with it.
them.
Very good.
Okay.
That's it, I'm done.
That's it?
That was the last thing, yep.
Okay. My favorite subject, stormwater. Overall, I think the city did very well handling the stormwater that we had. I was out right in the middle of it, making sure that the drains were open. Learned a few things over on Crescent. One thing that I noticed was that the property that's under construction needs a silt fence at the front because the muddy water was washing out all over Crescent Avenue, down to Golden Oak, down Golden Oak, all the way around Golden Oak and into the drain. It's quite a bit of muddy water. So it would help if they had a silt fence out there to help that happen. Over on Crescent Road, something that I noticed this time that I never noticed before was as you look at the left side of Crescent Road as that water is going down, the path of water is much wider than I had envisioned it being before. I thought it would be like a kind of a 5 or 6 foot narrow stream rushing down there. No, it was in some areas, it probably went back 20 feet into those trees. The good news was that all of the culverts over there were open and the water was making its way down to the creek. And the other thing that I noticed too is that by doing the improvement that we're doing with the stormwater for the sidewalk project and redirecting some of that water is greatly going to help that left side of Crescent. The area, there's one area where we had erosion, and I guess we put rock along the side of the road, about a 10-foot, 12-foot, 15-foot stretch there. That was actually creating a problem in that the water got to those rocks and it couldn't follow the path down anymore, so it went out in the road. And it eventually went back to the other side again, but it was coming out, washing over on the road there. The little wooden bridge was underwater, totally underwater, but it held up. The flow of that water was absolutely incredible. I mean, if anybody fell down in there, that's it. They're gone. The amount of, and there were several homeowners down there as I was looking at that from the Valley Park side. Apparently in the back of their homes, they have the big hills come down. They were all getting water back there. And so I said, well, you know, we kind of had an issue like that on Autumn Leaf Drive, and ended up, we had to build up a berm and redirect the water. So you might want to talk to somebody about that. But there were 3 homeowners in a row that had all that water coming back down into the back of their house. But as far as Twin Oaks was concerned, I went down into the condominiums, and the one condo that had that sloped driveway with the little grate by the garage door to get so much water, that we had suggested that they reroute their gutter, because we noticed last time that the gutters were dumping the water right on that drain, and it was overwhelming that drain and backing up and then going into the garage. Well, they rerouted the gutter. I don't think they've changed the drain out. It's the same one, but it was holding up really well.
Good.
So I think they got no water this time. I don't think anybody really got much water to speak of. Considering how much rain we had,
10 inches.
I thought we did pretty good.
8 to 10, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had water ponding across the street, but the drains that we had put in there years ago eventually took care of it, and it was gone. So I don't know how the homes across from you did.
I did not have any calls from any residents
Yeah.
actually after, and usually I would if there was an issue, but I
And
know some
they had-
residents have done some stormwater in their own yards, and I think that helped tremendously.
Well, they had water coming through there, I know, but it seemed as if it was being managed
Mhm,
out to those front drains,
I think so.
and it seemed to work. So at any rate, I thought it was good news, and happy to see it.
How did your neighbor fare with their new project?
I think it did well. I didn't hear any complaints from them, and there was no lake in their driveway. It's gone now. So yeah, I think they did well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did what it was supposed to do.
We did have a tie wall collapse between Lynn Vogel and Mary Lou. There's a tie wall which is on the property line,
Well, not we. It's not our tie wall. It's
collapsed.
the homeowner's
and,
tie wall.
Basically, I told them it appeared to be that they really needed to get surveyed to really see whose wall it is, but it appeared to be a border wall, which means that both the property owners need to work it out as to who needs to fix it. So that's underway. And that's all I have. Lisa?
I have nothing.
Joe?
No, we, that rain didn't affect us too much with I'm really looking forward to seeing, when this is completed. I don't ever want to rain like that again,
Yeah.
especially with a brand new puppy. But
It appeared with the deep trenches that they had dug
it helps.
that it helped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Right.
right. Yeah, I don't have anything else.
No, sir.
Dennis?
Not a thing.
Okay.
Glad to be done with the phone calls from the election.
Yeah. Final citizen comments?
And they've all gone.
We have nothing online. Not a
Nothing
thing.
online? Okay. We have a need for closed session. You want to read that?
Oh, sure. Okay. Pursuant to section 610.021 RSMO and subject to a motion duly made and adopted, the Board of Aldermen will hold a closed meeting for the purpose of dealing with matters relating to the following. Section 610.021(3), hiring, firing, disciplining, promoting employees when personal information about the employee is discussed or recorded, and section 610.021(13), individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment. Mouthful.
Motion to go to executive session.
Second.
Call roll?
Alderman Eisenhower?
Yes.
Alderman Cruzen?
Yes.
Alderman Stokel?
Yes.
Alderman Whitmore?
Yes.
Okay, we will now go into closed session. I think
Okay.
we'll
I think we're going to
into
go in the conference room,
go in the
actually.
conference room?
Yeah.
You want any break now?
Yep, you're good. Yeah.
No, no, no.
Oh, yes, the camera. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Even though we're leaving, I should turn it off.
I'm going to the bathroom before we get in.
Yeah, take